Mark Cuban, billionaire investor, owner of the Dallas Mavericks, former reality TV star, and once a loud Bitcoin skeptic. He laughed at the idea of digital money, but years later, he's not only investing in it, he's using crypto to buy his own NBA team. So how did this transformation happen? And what lesson can we learn about changing our minds? This is the story of Mark Cuban, the crypto believer. There were two key moments that led Cuban to crypto. And if you know his story, UVA probably heard about his Mavs accepting Bitcoin payments for tickets and merch around 2019 or 2020. But most people do know their appos an even earlier sign that he was already a fan of blockchain technology. In 2014, when asked about Bitcoin, Cuban answered, quote, "I don't care about Bitcoin. It's a bubble. It's not a real currency." And this was actually the beginning of his second moment. In other words, this was not his epiphany yet. This was just the start of his journey becoming one. He said Bitcoin was too volatile, too small of a community, and had no real use case. And if you ask any crypto investor why they got into crypto, they've probably said something similar at some point. But as he continued looking into blockchain over the following 5 years, he realized that the more things changed, the more they stayed the same. In other words, blockchain kept evolving but was always decentralized, transparent, secure, and programmable. This is why he would later say, quote, "My one regret is not buying more Bitcoin, because he saw blockchain becoming more and more adopted by big companies. And he thought that these applications built on top of the blockchain were really interesting. He said it was confusing at first, but then everything became clear, like the early internet days." This was his epiphany, his third moment. At this point, he realized that blockchain was here to stay. But now let's go back to the beginning, back to 2014, when Mark Cuban was quoted saying, quote, "I don't care about Bitcoin. It's a bubble. It's not a real currency." He wasn't completely wrong, but this was before he had his epiphany. And if you know anything about the history of crypto, you know it's been in a constant state of evolution. What seemed like a bubble turned out to be the foundation of what we call Web3 today. So Mark, being the intelligent man that he is, made a mistake we all make sometimes. He judged something that he didn't understand enough. And this takes us to our second moment, his second epiphany. Now, Mark was never someone to shy away from giving an opinion. And since he started investing in 1980, he developed a reputation of knowing what is going to succeed and what isn't. For example, he invested early in companies like Twitter, Facebook, and Spotify, and he invested in the NBA before it was cool. He knows what looks silly in the beginning and what's going to blow up in the future. This is his superpower. But he also has another superpower. He admits when he's wrong. And this is the secret to his success. He doesn't pretend to know it all, and he changes his mind when there are better ideas. Now, when you think about it, this was very hard for him to do when it came to crypto. After all, he was basically saying the future will come from decentralized computers instead of centralized ones. And this goes against the entire foundation of how the internet worked until that point. The reality is that Mark is very intelligent, and smart people change their minds all the time. They might not get it right the first time, but they take new evidence into consideration and they adapt. And this is what happened with Mark Cuban. It took him 5 years from his first moment to his second. He learned about the space. He adapted his beliefs based on the evidence, and he became a believer. So after his second moment, his belief in blockchain grew, but he still wasn't quite ready to talk about it publicly. He knew he needed to walk the walk and not just talk the talk. This is where his second moment ends and his third begins. He started accepting Bitcoin payments for tickets and merch, and he started investing in the space. We know he bought Bitcoin, Ethereum, and several DeFi blue chips. We also know he invested in several NFT projects like Board Yachts Club, and he has been an active investor in several others. This is when he truly became a believer. He wasn't just talking about crypto, he was putting his money where his mouth was, and this is what we should all do. If you want to become a good investor, you need to follow the 3 steps. First, educate yourself. Second, invest your money. And third, keep learning. And it's easy to criticize someone like Mark Cuban. It's easy to say, well, he only did it because he could make money off of it. But that's what smart investors do. They don't hold on to stubborn opinions. They constantly evaluate their beliefs, and they change their mind when presented with new evidence. And this is the secret to Mark Cuban's success. He didn't judge Bitcoin too harshly, just because he didn't understand it. He educated himself, he evaluated his beliefs, he changed his mind, and then he invested. This is what separates the believers from the skeptics, the believers from the haters, and the believers from the cynics. Believers see the value in something. They believe in something so much that they are willing to experiment with it. They try it for themselves, and then they learn from it. This is the best way to grow as an investor, as a person, and as a crypto believer. On the other hand, skeptics remain skeptical. Haters keep hating, and cynics keep being cynical. And this is the difference between them and Mark Cuban. Mark is a believer. He believes in the power of decentralization. He sees the potential of blockchain technology, and he's willing to experiment with it. He's not afraid of changing his mind when presented with new evidence, and this is the secret to his success. And if Mark Cuban can go from skeptic to believer, so can you. It doesn't matter if you're a self-proclaimed expert or a noob in crypto. It doesn't matter if you've been investing for years or if you just started your journey. You need to remain open to new ideas. You need to be willing to change your mind when presented with new evidence. You need to stop being a skeptic and start being a believer. You need to stop hating and start believing. You need to stop being cynical and start seeing the potential. Because if you do, you'll see that the possibilities are endless. You'll see that this technology can change the world. And you'll see that you can be part of it. Now, Mark has been part of it for almost a decade now, but he's just getting started. He recently tweeted, quote, "This is the first time in my life I wish I held more." And this shows that he's passionate about the space. He's excited about the potential, and he wants to be part of it. And this is the energy that we need more of. We need more people who are willing to change their mind when presented with new evidence. We need more believers. When Mark made his first investment in crypto, it was worth around $5 million. And today, his crypto portfolio is worth well over $100 million. That's why he's now saying he wishes he invested more. That's why he's so passionate about the space. And that's why he's a believer. He understands the potential and he wants to be part of it. And this is the mentality that we need more of in this space. It's not about predicting the future perfectly. It's about being open to it. It's about being flexible and adaptable. And this is what Mark Cuban does better than anyone else. So the next time you hear someone dismissing Bitcoin, someone calling it a scam, someone saying it's too late, remember Mark Cuban. Remember his story from laughter to leadership. Remember how he went from skeptic to believer. This is the story of Mark Cuban, the crypto believer. If you enjoyed this story, hit like, subscribe, and join us here at DCA Crypto, where we explore the minds shaping the crypto world.